Alright guys, let's talk about creating a part drawing based off of a part that we've created in Onshape. So if you look here, I've got just a general part that I've created in Onshape. If you think back to the CAD Basics training with Onshape, you'll probably recognize this part a little bit. But we're just going to use it to create a part drawing really quick and use it to talk about some of our just general rules for dimensioning. Okay, so first thing that we want to do when we are creating a drawing is obviously we model our part, and then once you've got your part modeled and you're happy with it, you can come down here to the plus symbol. It says insert new element. You go down here and we can select create drawing. ANSI inch is a good selection for what we're doing. That's just an ANSI standard template that we can use that Onshape gives us, so that's nice. So click OK. It's going to load for a second here and it's going to pull up, and then it's going to ask us to select a part or assembly that we want to include on our drawing. In our case, the only part we have is part 1, so we're going to go ahead and select that. And then it's going to want to put your front view based on how you've modeled your object. So if you modeled it funny, or you modeled it in a way where its front view isn't the front view that you want it to be, you can come up here and you can change the view orientation of your part. Okay, but in our case, I think this front view works out pretty well for us. So we can go ahead and pop that guy in there here. And then you'll notice that up here we've got projected view highlighted still. Okay, so it's going to come and give us a view of wherever we move this. It'll be a different view. So if we move it over here, it'll give us the side view. If we click this guy again and then we move up here, it'll give us the top view. And then if we click here and then move to the side, it's going to give us a isometric view. Okay, so we want to include 3 views in an isometric ideally. That'll help us dimension our part properly. Remember, we don't do any dimensioning from this isometric view. We'll do all of our dimensioning from these 3 views. Generally, when we're dimensioning, we're going to use the dimensions that reflect our actual object and not the scaled size. So this is 1/2 scale on our drawing. So we're gonna include the actual dimensions in here. We're also going to try to include every dimension necessary to reproduce this part. So if you're going to hand this drawing to someone and they were going to model it, or they were going to manufacture a part, they're going to need all the dimensions necessary. So we're going to try and include those. And then we're not going to include any unnecessary dimensions. So we're going to try not to duplicate anything or give the same information 2 different ways. That just makes your drawing really confusing and it's unnecessary. We're also going to try to keep our dimensions attached to the view that best shows the contour of the feature to be dimensioned. Okay, and what I mean by that is we're going to go and try and choose the view that best shows which part of that feature. Okay, so we don't want to dimension this hole on one of these other views, okay, because we can't see the hole very well on those views. In fact, this view doesn't include any hidden lines, so we actually can't see it at all. So that leads me to my next point. We're going to try to avoid dimensioning any hidden lines. We're going to and then lastly, we're going to try and keep all of our dimensions in between the views, okay? Unless absolutely necessary, we're not going to put any dimensions on the outside. Okay, so if we're looking at our front view here, remember front view shares height with the side view. The front view shares width with the top view. And then the top view and the side view share depth. Okay, so that's important to remember when we're placing all of our dimensions. That way we don't accidentally duplicate any dimensions. Alright, so I've got my dimension tool up here highlighted, so I'll go ahead and click that guy. And then I'm going to start with overall dimensions, and then I'm going to work in and try and get any features that need dimensioned. So first overall dimension we're going to use is width. So width here is 5 inches, and notice that I've put that width dimension in between the two views that share width, so that way we don't have to do it twice. So now that I've got an overall here, I'm not actually going to include an overall on this one. And then I'm going to go and try and grab any other features. So it looks like we've got a change in dimension here, so I want to include that. And then we need to dimension how far away this hole is. But before we can do that, we need to add a center mark, because with holes we're going to dimension from a center mark. So there's a center mark tool up here. You can click that and then come down and click your circle. Now it's got a center mark, and we should be able to go back to our dimension tool and grab the center, grab the side, and kind of bring that dimension up. Okay, so it looks like we've got an overall dimension and then our two features dimensioned, and then we don't need to add a dimension from here to here, okay, because we can do some subtraction and that'll be done for us. So it looks like we've got all of our width dimensions kind of figured out for us, so that's nice. So the next thing we want to do is height. I'm going to do height off of this guy as well. Remember, our front view here and our side view share height, so we're going to do that in between. And then it looks like if we do this circle, it's going to share a dimension with this other feature, so that's kind of a win for us. And grab that guy there, and then we can do this last height of this guy. Alright, so we've got all the heights there. Then we also need to dimension our circle's size. So to do that, all you've got to do is click the circle, and then you've got to find a place to put this, okay? And you ideally would want this outside of the part, but you're also going to want to avoid crossing any other dimension lines whenever possible. So in this case, just for to keep everything as clean as possible, I'm going to leave that one inside the part. But just remember, ideally it would be outside of the part, but also ideally you wouldn't cross any dimension lines, so that's why I've chosen to keep that inside the part for this one. Alright, so we've got all of our height and all of our width dimensions that we need right now. So the last thing that we're missing is depth. Okay, so for depth you can choose either our side view or our top view to represent depth. I'm going to use the top view just because it seems like it's going to be an easier one for us. Place that here, and then we need to dimension this guy, kind of put it there, and we look pretty good. Alright, so if I get out of my dimension tool here, this drawing is really nice because if you remember some of our drawing practices is that you always wanted all of your lines to line up properly. If you run out of room, you can grab one of these guys and move it so that you can have some more space. More complex drawings will need more dimensions, so you might need some more space in between. If you move one, it'll fix the other ones for you. Okay, so it'll keep everything nice and lined up perfectly for you. So you don't really have to worry about alignment too much. It kind of handles it for you. So I think that we've gotten everything dimensioned the way that we needed, and we've followed all of our general rules for dimensioning. Just try to be careful, make sure that you get everything dimensioned, try not to duplicate anything, and then keep everything as clean as possible, and you should be able to do a pretty good job.